Commander 1 stood on the command deck of the evacuation center, watching the sky burn. The ships descended like locusts, their weapons painting the atmosphere with streaks of deadly light. New Colony had maybe 2 hours before it fell completely, maybe less. "Get those transports loaded faster," she barked into her comm unit. "We need every civilian off this rock before those ships break through our last defense line." The defense line was a joke, 3 human cruisers against an entire battle fleet. The aliens had better shields, better weapons, better everything. Humanity had been fighting this war for 3 years and they were losing. Badly. "Commander, the outer perimeter just collapsed," her tactical officer reported. "The destroyers are pulling back. We have maybe 30 minutes. One felt her stomach drop. 30 minutes to evacuate 12,000 people. It was impossible. She opened her mouth to give the order to prioritize children and elderly when every screen in the command center suddenly went dark. "What just happened?" she demanded. "Unknown, ma'am. Some kind of massive electromagnetic pulse just swept through the sector. It knocked out our sensors for a moment. Wait, I'm getting something. One ship, single fighter craft, coming in fast from the asteroid belt." "Ours or theirs?" "Neither. Transponder code doesn't match anything in our database. It's just black, completely black, and there's a skull painted on the hull." One's blood went cold. She had heard the stories. Every commander in the outer colonies had. The ghost pilot, the lone fighter that appeared when things looked darkest, the one they called the Reaper. "Put it on screen," she ordered. The flickered to life, showing the impossible. A single human fighter, barely larger than a shuttlecraft, was tearing through the formation like a bullet through paper. It moved in ways that should have ripped it apart. Sharp turns at speeds that would crush a normal pilot. Sudden stops that physics. The skull emblem on its nose seemed to grin at death itself. "He's insane," someone whispered. "Those maneuvers should kill him." But they didn't. The Reaper's ship spun and dove, and everywhere it went, fighters exploded. His weapons were standard issue, nothing special. But the way he used them was extraordinary. He didn't just shoot at the enemy. He predicted where they would be, what they would do, and destroyed them before they even realized they were dead. A cruiser turned its main cannon toward the evacuation center. One saw it charging up, saw the inevitable death heading their way. Then the black fighter appeared between them and the cruiser, moving so fast it was almost a blur. The Reaper fired a full salvo of missiles directly into the cannon's barrel. The explosion tore the cruiser in half. "Mother of God," one breathed. The Reaper didn't slow down. He accelerated toward the next cruiser, drawing fire from dozens of enemy ships. They couldn't hit him. He was too fast, too unpredictable. He moved like he knew what they were going to do before they did it, like he could read their minds. Another cruiser exploded, then another. The formation broke apart in confusion. They had come expecting an easy victory, a simple extermination of another weak human colony. Instead, they found a nightmare with a skull for a face. "Commander, they are retreating," her tactical officer announced, disbelief thick in his voice. "They're actually running away." One couldn't believe it either. They never retreated. They were conquerors, empire builders. They saw humanity as insects to be crushed, but now they fled before a single human pilot. The black fighter circled the colony once slowly. One could see it clearly now. Battle damage covered the hull. Scorch marks, dents, patches welded over holes. This ship had seen countless fights. The pilot had been doing this for a long time. "Try to hail him," one ordered. "I want to thank him. I want to know who he is." The communications officer shook his head. "No response, Commander. He's not accepting any transmissions. Wait. He's broadcasting something, just one message on loop." "What does it say?" "Keep fighting. Never surrender. They bleed just like everything else." Then the Reaper was gone, jumping to faster-than-light speed in a blink. The black fighter vanished into the stars, leaving behind only wreckage and questions. One stood in silence for a long moment. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. Her people were celebrating their impossible survival, but she felt something else, a chill running down her spine, because she had seen the way the Reaper fought, not like a soldier, not like a pilot, like someone who had forgotten how to be afraid, like someone who wanted to die but refused to do it until every last alien was gone. "Get me Admiral Duh," she said quietly. "She needs to know about this." Far away, at the Human Defense Force headquarters on Earth, Admiral Duh received one's report with great interest. She had been tracking the Reaper for 8 months now. 17 colony attacks. 17 times this mysterious pilot had appeared. 17 victories against impossible odds. Captain Sung stood beside her desk, reading through the data. Bioscans show elevated heart rate, higher adrenaline than should be possible. He should have blacked out from those turns. No human should survive that kind of stress. "Maybe he's not entirely human anymore," Duh suggested. "Maybe he's one of the old experimental soldiers. Enhanced reflexes, stronger bones, faster healing." The enhancement programs were shut down before the war started, and all those soldiers were accounted for. "Then what is he?" Duh stared at the skull emblem on her screen. "What kind of person does this? Fights alone, never asks for help, never even tells us his name." Sung had no answer. Duh pulled up another report, this one from her intelligence division. "They are talking about him. Their commanders are afraid. They call him the Death Shadow in their language. They're starting to think humans have secret weapons, that we're more dangerous than they thought." "Maybe we should let them keep thinking that." "Maybe," Duh leaned back in her chair. "But I'm worried, Sung. Someone who fights like that, who takes those kinds of risks, he's going to get himself killed. And then we lose whatever advantage his reputation gives us." Her aide, a young woman named Wu, knocked on the door. "Admiral, new intelligence just came in. They are planning something big. Lord himself is taking personal command of a fleet. They're moving toward Harvest Station." Harvest Station, 50,000 civilians, mostly farmers and their families, lightly defended. "It's bait," Sung said immediately. "They know the Reaper shows up when civilians are in danger. They're setting a trap." Duh stood up, her face grim. "Then we need to warn him, broadcast on all frequencies. Tell him it's a trap, tell him to stay away." But even as she gave the order, she knew it wouldn't work. The Reaper never listened. He never ran, he never backed down. That was what made him legendary. That was also what was going to get him killed. In the darkness of space, a black fighter with a skull emblem changed course. Its pilot had heard the warnings, had heard about Harvest Station, had heard about the trap. And he was heading straight toward it anyway. Because that was what the Reaper did. He flew toward death again and again, daring it to finally catch him. And so far, death kept missing. Harvest Station floated peacefully in space, unaware of the death coming toward it. The agricultural colony grew food for a dozen nearby systems. Massive greenhouses covered its surface like glass bubbles, filled with wheat and rice and vegetables that fed hundreds of thousands. Inside those greenhouses, families worked the soil just like their ancestors had done on Earth. They had no idea they were bait. Lord stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Harvest Station through the commander was tall, even for his species, with deep blue skin marked by scars from 100 battles. He had killed more humans than he could count. But this human, this Reaper, had killed more of his warriors than any other. "Is everything ready?" he asked his second in command. "Yes, Lord, the gravity well generator is in position. When we activate it, nothing will be able to jump to faster than light speed within 1,000,000 kilometers. The Reaper will be trapped." "And the fleet?" 60 ships all in stealth mode. The moment he appears, we surround him. He cannot fight 60 ships alone. No one can. Smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Begin the attack. Make it look real. Kill enough to make him angry but leave most alive. I want him to think he can save them. I want him to come." The fleet uncloaked around Harvest Station like a nightmare materializing from nothing. Their weapons fired but carefully. They destroyed the defense platforms. They damaged the station's shields. They made it look like a real attack, but they held back from total destruction. Inside the Human Defense Force headquarters, alarms blared. "Harvest Station is under attack," Wu reported, her voice tight with stress. "Fleet, 60 ships. They're not destroying it, Admiral, they're just waiting." Admiral De slammed her fist on the desk. "It's the trap. They're doing exactly what we thought. Captain Sung, how fast can we get a fleet there?" 4 hours minimum. Too long to save them if they get serious. Commander 1 had been listening on the comm channel. "We have to warn the Reaper again. Tell him not to come. Tell him it's suicide." "We've been broadcasting warnings for the last 2 hours," Wu said. "No response, but there's something else. We're picking up a faster-than-light signature heading toward Harvest Station, a single ship." Everyone in the room went silent. "He's going anyway," Sung said quietly. "He knows it's a trap and he's going anyway." Duff felt anger and admiration mix in her chest. Stubborn fool. He's going to get himself killed for 50,000 people he's never met. "That's what makes him the Reaper," one said. "He doesn't calculate odds, he just fights." The black fighter dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Harvest Station system. The pilot could see the ships immediately. 60 of them, all waiting, all watching. It was obviously a trap. He flew toward them anyway. The skull emblem on his ship seemed to grin wider as he accelerated. His hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. His breathing was steady. His heart rate was elevated but controlled. He had been in worse situations before. At least, that's what he told himself. "Reaper to Harvest Station," he broadcast. "Begin evacuation procedures. Get everyone to the core shelters. I'll buy you time." He didn't wait for a response. He opened fire on the nearest cruiser, missiles streaking through space like angry stars. The cruiser's shields flared but held. These weren't the normal ships. These were better protected. This was definitely a trap. Alarms suddenly screamed in his cockpit. His faster-than-light drive went dead. The gravity well generator had activated. He was stuck here. No escape. "Well," he muttered to himself, "guess we do this the hard way." The fleet uncloaked all around him, not just 60 ships. More. They had hidden reserves, 80 ships, maybe 90, all their weapons pointed at him. Lord's voice came over the comm channel. "Reaper, you are surrounded. Your faster-than-light drive is disabled. You cannot run. You cannot win. Surrender now, and I promise the people on Harvest Station will live. Fight, and I will kill every last one of them." The Reaper's response was simple. He fired everything he had at the nearest ship. The battle that followed became legendary. 1 ship against 90, 1 human pilot against an entire fleet. He moved through space like a dancer, like a ghost, like death itself. Ships exploded around him. He took damage but kept fighting. His shields failed, but he kept fighting. His hull breached in 3 places, but he kept fighting. On the human command deck, they watched in awe and horror. "He's destroyed 11 ships," Wu reported, her voice shaking. 11 against 90. How is that even possible?" "Because he's not trying to survive," Captain Sung said quietly. "He's trying to take as many of them with him as he can." But even the Reaper had limits. A lucky shot from a destroyer hit his engine core. His ship went spinning, power failing, life support compromised. More shots hit him, each one doing critical damage. His weapons went offline. His thrusters failed. He was done. Boarding craft attached to his dying ship like parasites. Soldiers in heavy armor cut through his hull and swarmed inside. The Reaper fought them hand to hand, but there were too many. They overwhelmed him through sheer numbers. When they finally restrained him, his armor was cracked and his helmet's skull face was scorched black from weapons fire. but he was alive. Barely. Lord watched the capture on his with satisfaction. Bring him to me, alive. I want to see the face of the human who killed so many of my warriors. The Reaper was dragged onto the flagship, still in his full armor. The soldiers tried to remove his helmet, but the locking mechanism was damaged, stuck in place. Or maybe he had locked it deliberately. Leave it for now, ordered. Put him in the maximum security cell. We have time. I will make him remove it himself eventually. Back at human headquarters, Admiral De received the news with a heavy heart. The Reaper had been captured. His ship was destroyed. Lord was broadcasting the victory to all of human space, mocking them, showing them their greatest hero in chains. We have to mount a rescue, Commander 1 said immediately. We can't just leave him there. A rescue mission against the flagship is suicide, Sung argued. We'd be throwing away good soldiers for one man. One man who has saved thousands of lives, one shot back. One man who just sacrificed himself for Harvest Station. We owe him. De raised her hand for silence. Captain Sung is right. An official rescue mission would fail, but Commander 1 is also right. We owe him. She paused. So we're not going to mount an official rescue mission. We're going to mount an unofficial one. Volunteers only, small team, fast insertion and extraction. Admiral, I volunteer, one said immediately. As do I, Sung added, surprising everyone. De looked at them both. You understand this is probably suicide. The flagship is heavily defended. Getting in and out alive would require a miracle. The Reaper has been performing miracles for 8 months, one said. Maybe it's time we tried to match him. Wu stepped forward. I can help from here. I've been studying computer systems. I might be able to hack into their flagship, create some confusion. Do it, De ordered. You have 24 hours to put together a team and a plan. After that, Lord announces he's going to execute the Reaper publicly. We need to move fast. As the planning began far away on the flagship, the Reaper sat in his cell. His armor was damaged but still functional. His helmet still hid his face. The guards watched him constantly, waiting for him to show fear. He didn't. He just sat quietly, breathing steadily, waiting. Because the Reaper knew something that didn't. He had been captured before twice by different alien species. Both times, his captors had underestimated what a human could do when cornered. Both times, they had died for that mistake. They were about to learn the same lesson. Under his damaged helmet, hidden behind the skull face, the man smiled. Not with joy, with anticipation. They thought they had beaten him. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. Lord entered the detention block with 6 of his best guards. The Reaper sat in the center of a transparent cell, his damaged armor still intact, his skull-faced helmet still locked in place. He hadn't moved in 12 hours, hadn't spoken, hadn't even asked for water. Human, said, his voice echoing through the cell block. Remove your helmet. Let me see the face of the warrior who has cost me so many ships and soldiers. The Reaper didn't respond, didn't even turn his head. Felt his anger rising. He was a lord of the Empire. He had conquered 17 species. This human should be cowering before him, begging for mercy. Instead, he sat like a statue, silent and still. I can have my soldiers cut it off, threatened. The process will not be pleasant for you. Still nothing. Signaled to his guards. They entered the cell cautiously, weapons ready. The Reaper remained motionless as they approached. One guard reached for the helmet. The moment his fingers touched the metal, the Reaper moved. Fast. Impossibly fast for someone who should be exhausted and injured. His hand shot out and grabbed the guard's wrist, twisting it with a sharp crack. The guard screamed. The Reaper took his weapon and fired 3 times before the other guards could react. 3 guards fell. Then the remaining guards opened fire, and the Reaper dropped the weapon and raised his hands. He sat back down, as calm as before. Stared at the 3 dead guards. You are injured, weakened, yet you move like that. What are you? Motivated, the Reaper said. His voice came through the helmet's speaker, distorted and mechanical, but there was something underneath it, something cold. The guards dragged their dead away, ordered the cell's restraint systems activated. Energy fields pinned the Reaper's arms and legs in place. Now he couldn't move at all. You killed 3,426 of my warriors, said, beginning his interrogation. You destroyed 82 ships. You have cost my empire resources that should have been used to conquer more worlds. For months, you have been a shadow, a ghost, striking and vanishing. But now I have you. Now you will answer for your crimes. Crimes, the Reaper repeated. Interesting word. Tell me about crimes, Lord. Tell me about the colonies you burned, the civilians you slaughtered, the children you killed. Felt surprised. Most prisoners begged or bargained, this one accused. War is not a crime. Conquest is the nature of the strong. Your people are weak. You should have surrendered. We did surrender. Some colonies did. You killed them anyway. Because your species needs to learn its place. You are prey. We are predators. This is the natural order. The Reaper laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Natural order, is that what you tell yourself? You want to know what's natural? I'll show you, very soon. Left the cell, disturbed. The Reaper's confidence made no sense. He was captured, restrained, about to be executed, yet he acted like he had already won. Meanwhile, Commander One's rescue team approached the flagship in a stolen transport. They had 6 soldiers, all volunteers, all knowing they probably wouldn't survive. Pilot Jin flew the ship with steady hands despite her fear. Approaching the flagship, Jin reported. Wu, please tell me your hack is working. Back on Earth, Wu typed furiously on her keyboard. I'm in their systems, barely. Their security is incredible. I can maybe give you 10 minutes of confusion, that's all. 10 minutes to get in, find the Reaper and get out, Captain Sung said grimly. It's impossible. Then we better be fast, one replied. Wu activated her hack. On the flagship, systems began failing randomly. Lights flickered. Doors opened and closed. Internal sensors went haywire. It wasn't much, but it created chaos. And in that chaos, something else happened. Something Wu didn't do. The Reaper's cell lock disengaged. Wait, Wu said, confused. I didn't unlock that. The cell opened from the inside. How did he? The Reaper stood up as the energy restraints failed. He walked to the cell door, which slid open at his approach. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Guards rushed toward the detention block. They never made it. Security cameras captured what happened next. The footage would haunt human and viewers for years to come. The Reaper moved through the ship like he was designed for killing. Not just trained, designed. Every movement was efficient, brutal, perfect. He took a weapon from the first guard and used it to kill 5 more. He moved to the armory, somehow knowing exactly where it was despite never being on this ship before. He armed himself properly. Then he started working his way through the ship, section by section. Soldiers were trained warriors. They had conquered empires. But they fell before the Reaper like wheat before a scythe. He didn't hesitate, didn't show mercy, didn't even slow down. He's killing everyone between him and the hangar bay, an officer reported too. We've lost 40 soldiers in 5 minutes. Whatever he is, he's not just human. He can't be. Watched the security footage in disbelief. Send everything we have. Stop him. Kill him if you must, but stop him. 100 soldiers converged on the Reaper's position. The hallway became a war zone. Energy weapons lit up the corridor like lightning. Explosions shook the walls. Smoke filled the air. When it cleared, the Reaper was still standing. The 100 soldiers were not. That was when one's team breached the ship. They entered through a cargo bay, using Wu's hack to disable the security. They moved carefully, weapons ready, expecting heavy resistance. Instead, they found empty corridors, dead guards, and an alarm system screaming about a containment breach. "What happened here?" Jin whispered, staring at the bodies. "The Reaper happened," Sung said. He had seen the combat footage that Wu was sending them. "He's loose. He's fighting his way out alone." They followed the trail of destruction. More bodies, more signs of fighting. The Reaper had torn through the ship like a storm, leaving devastation in his wake. Finally, they found him in the ship's armory. He stood among weapons and ammunition, methodically loading magazines and checking equipment. His armor was covered in scorch marks and alien blood. His helmet's skull face was cracked but still intact. He turned as they entered, weapons rising instantly. "Wait," one shouted. "We're human, we're here to rescue you." The Reaper lowered his weapons slowly. He studied them through his damaged helmet for a long moment. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "This isn't your fight." "You saved Harvest Station," one replied. "You've saved dozens of colonies. We owe you. We're not leaving without you." "I don't need rescue." "You're surrounded by thousands of enemy soldiers on an enemy flagship in enemy space," Captain Sung pointed out. "You need help whether you admit it or not." Alarms blared louder. Wu's voice crackled over their comm units. "You have company coming. Lord is personally leading 200 soldiers your way. You need to leave, now." The Reaper stood silent for a moment. Then he reached up to his helmet. His hands found the release mechanisms. With a hiss of escaping air, the locks disengaged. "If you're going to fight with me," he said, "you should know who you're fighting for." Slowly, he lifted the helmet off. One had expected many things: a veteran, a grizzled older soldier, maybe even a woman despite the voice. What she didn't expect was the face she saw: young, maybe 30 years old, sharp features marked by exhaustion and old pain, dark eyes that burned with an intensity that was almost frightening. But most surprising of all, he was just human. Completely, obviously human. No cybernetic implants, no genetic modifications, no alien technology fused to his body. Just a man who looked like he had forgotten how to sleep, a man who had seen too much death, a man who had become death himself. "My name is Min," he said, "and I think it's time Lord learned what real fear feels like." He put the helmet back on, the skull face clicking into place. "If you're staying, then stay behind me. I'm going to clear a path to your ship. Don't try to stop me. Don't try to slow me down, just keep up." One and her team exchanged glances. They had come to rescue him. Now they were following him into battle. The doors to the armory exploded inward. Soldiers poured through, weapons firing. Min moved forward to meet them, not backward to flee. He became the Reaper once more, and death walked the corridors of the flagship. One and her team fought beside him, and they began to understand. He wasn't superhuman. He was just unwilling to lose, unwilling to back down, unwilling to let the aliens think humanity was weak. He was just a man who had decided that if the galaxy wanted to see humans as prey, then he would show them what prey with teeth looked like. They fought through 3 corridors before reaching a junction where the forces temporarily fell back. Min used the moment to reload his weapons. His movements were practiced, automatic. He had done this so many times that his hands knew what to do without thought. Commander 1 stared at him, her mind still trying to process what she had seen. The bioscans from his ship, the impossible maneuvers, the inhuman combat ability, all of it from just a normal human man. "How?" she finally asked. The question came out more blunt than she intended. "The readings from your ship, the way you move, you should be enhanced, modified, something, but you're just." "Human," Min finished for her. He checked his weapon's charge. "Just human, is that so hard to believe?" "Yes," Captain Sung said flatly. "I've seen the combat footage. What you do isn't possible for an unmodified human. The G-forces alone should kill you." Min was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to know my secret? My enhancement? It's simple. I'm angry. I'm so angry that I refuse to let physics or biology or common sense stop me. I'm angry enough to push past pain, past fear, past the limits everyone says can't be broken. That's not how the human body works, one said. It is when you have the right motivation. Min's voice went cold. Let me tell you about motivation, Commander. Let me tell you why I became the Reaper. They had maybe 5 minutes before the attack again. Min used that time to tell his story. His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was reading a report instead of describing the worst day of his life. 2 years ago, I was an engineer on Terra Nova Colony. Nothing special. I fixed machines, designed irrigation systems, lived a quiet life. I had a wife named, she was a teacher. We had a daughter, Mijin. She was 7 years old. She loved drawing pictures of stars. Jin felt her throat tighten. She knew where this was going. They came to Terra Nova on what they called a subjugation raid. Our colony leadership surrendered immediately. They thought cooperation would save lives. The commander promised mercy if we didn't resist. Min's hands tightened on his weapon. They lied. They burned the colony anyway. They said it was to make an example, to show other human worlds what happened to those who didn't fight hard enough. They wanted to teach us proper fear. The colony was destroyed, one asked quietly. Worse, they made it slow. They gathered everyone in the central square and started executing people in groups of 10. Every hour, another 10 dead. They said they would stop if someone fought back. They wanted to prove humans were too cowardly to resist even when watching their own people die. No one spoke. The only sound was the distant alarm and the hum of the ship's engines. I tried to fight, Min continued. I grabbed a weapon from a dead guard. I tried to save them. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't strong enough. I watched die. I watched Mijin die. And the commander looked at me and laughed. He said humans were insects, weak, pathetic, born to be stepped on. Then the orbital bombardment started. Someone had sent a distress signal and human ships were coming. They decided to destroy the evidence. The entire colony burned. I survived by hiding in a collapsed building, buried under rubble, pretending to be dead while I listened to the screams. Min turned to look at one directly. His eyes were dark and empty. When rescue came 3 days later, I wasn't the same person anymore. Something in me had broken, or maybe something had been born. I realized that they were right about one thing. We were weak. We surrendered too easily. We believed in mercy and honor and rules of war, and that was killing us. So you decided to become something else, Sung said. I decided to become what they feared. I studied every weakness. I learned their tactics, their psychology, their technology. I pushed my body past every limit. I trained until my hands bled and my bones cracked and my mind screamed for rest. And when I couldn't train anymore, I built my ship from salvage and started hunting. You wanted revenge, one said. I wanted them to know that humans aren't weak. That when you hurt us, we don't just cry. We don't just surrender. We become weapons. We become nightmares. We become the thing you should have feared from the start. Alarms intensified. Wu's voice crackled over the comm. They're coming. Lord is leading the assault personally. 200 soldiers, heavy weapons, you need to run. We can make it to our ship, one said quickly. We can escape, live to fight another day. Min shook his head. You can run, I'm staying. That's suicide. Maybe, but I made them a promise. I told them I would make them fear. Running away doesn't accomplish that. Fighting impossible odds and winning does. You can't win against 200 soldiers, Sung argued. Watch me. Min walked to the ship's internal communications panel and activated it. He patched into every speaker on the flagship. When he spoke, every on the ship could hear him. Lord, you wanted to capture the Reaper, to show humans their greatest warrior in chains, to prove we were weak. But you made a mistake. You thought the mask was what made me dangerous. You thought the mystery was what made me feared. He reached up and removed his helmet again, holding it in one hand. Look at me. I'm broadcasting this to your entire fleet. I'm just a man. No enhancements, no modifications. Just a human who watched his family die and decided that would never happen again. My name is Min. I'm from Terra Nova, and I'm going to teach your empire what real fear looks like. He put the helmet back on. Come and get me. One grabbed his arm. This is insane, you'll die. Everyone dies, Commander. The question is whether your death means something. Today, mine will mean that the learned humans aren't prey. We're predators who were sleeping, and they just woke us up. Jin stepped forward. If you're staying, we're staying. You don't have to do this, Min said. You're right, Sung agreed. We don't have to, but you just gave your real name. You took off the mask. You made yourself human to them instead of a myth. That took courage. The least we can do is stand with that courage. One checked her weapon and moved to Min's side. Besides, if we run now, we'll never live it down. Every soldier in human space will know we abandoned the Reaper. Better to die here than live with that shame. Min looked at each of them. For the first time since they had met him, something like warmth appeared in his eyes. You're all idiots, you know that. We're human, one replied. It's what we do. The sound of marching boots echoed through the corridor. Hundreds of them. They were coming. Min raised his weapon. Then let's show them what idiots can do. Lord appeared at the far end of the corridor with his army behind him. He saw Min standing there with 4 other humans, 5 against 200. The odds were so absurd that it was almost funny. You should have run, called out. You should have taken your chance at escape. And you should have left Earth alone, Min replied. But here we are, both of us making poor choices. You cannot win. I don't need to win. I just need to hurt you badly enough that you remember this day. That every in your empire remembers. That when your soldiers see a human, they hesitate. They wonder if this one is like me. If this one will refuse to die. If this one will drag 10 of them down before falling. Raised his hand. 200 weapons aimed at the 5 humans. You speak of fear, said, but you are about to learn it yourself. Min laughed. It was the sound of someone who had already lost everything that mattered. I learned fear 2 years ago, watching my daughter burn. There's nothing you can show me that's worse than that, but I can show you something new. I can show you what a human looks like when fear becomes fuel instead of weakness. Kill them, ordered. The corridor erupted in weapons fire, and in that storm of death, 5 humans stood their ground and fought back. Because that was what humans did, when cornered, when outnumbered, when facing impossible odds. They fought anyway. The battle turned the corridor into hell. Energy weapons lit up the walls with deadly light. Explosions shook the deck plates. Smoke filled the air until breathing became a struggle. The 5 humans fought with everything they had. Min led the charge. He moved like water flowing between cover points, never staying still long enough for the enemy to target him properly. Every shot he fired hit a soldier. Every movement put him in position to protect his team. He had done this so many times that combat was like breathing to him. Natural. Instinctive. Commander 1 fought beside him, using tactics she had learned in 100 losing battles. She predicted enemy movements, called out positions, coordinated the team. Her leadership kept them alive when raw skill wasn't enough. Captain Sung showed why he commanded fleets. He thought 3 steps ahead, setting traps, using the environment, turning the superior numbers against them. He collapsed part of the ceiling to block reinforcements. He overloaded a power conduit to create a barrier of electricity. Pilot Jin moved with grace born from flying impossible missions. She dodged when she should have been hit. She found angles that shouldn't exist. Her shots found gaps in armor that seemed too small to exploit. And through it all they refused to break, refused to run, refused to accept defeat. But 200 soldiers was too many. Slowly, inevitably, they pushed forward. One took a hit to her shoulder. Jin's leg was burned by a near miss. Sung's weapon overheated and failed. They were running out of ammunition, out of strength, out of time. Min knew they were losing, but he also knew that wasn't the point. He had broadcast his message across the entire fleet. Thousands of aliens had watched him remove his mask, had heard him give his real name, had seen him choose to fight rather than run. That message was spreading through both human and alien space. The Reaper wasn't a myth. He was a man, just a man. And if one man could fight like this, what could humanity do when they all decided to fight the same way? Fall back to the next junction, Min ordered. His team obeyed, providing covering fire as they retreated step by step. They pressed forward, sensing victory. Lord walked among his soldiers, watching the humans struggle. "You fought well," he called out, "but you are finished. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick." "Go to hell," one shouted back. Smiled, brave words, but he never finished the sentence. The entire flagship shook violently. Alarms that had been blaring grew even louder. A massive explosion somewhere in the ship's aft section rattled the walls. "What was that?" demanded. His second-in-command spoke frantically into a communicator. "My lord, we have multiple human ships dropping out of faster-than-light speed. Dozens of them. They're attacking the fleet, and an Admiral Days leading them personally. She brought the entire human defense force." Back on Earth, Wu had been watching the battle through hacked security cameras. She had seen Min's broadcast. She had seen 5 humans choose to stand against impossible odds, and she had made a decision. She sent the footage to Admiral Da with a simple message. "They're dying for us. We should return the favor." Admiral Da had watched Min's broadcast 3 times, watched him remove his mask, watched him give his name, watched him choose to fight, and she realized something important. The Reaper had never been fighting for glory or revenge. He had been fighting to show humanity that they could resist, that they could be dangerous, that they didn't have to accept being prey. If she let him die alone, she would be proving the opposite. She would be teaching humanity that courage meant nothing, that standing up to oppressors only got you killed. So she made a choice. She took every available ship, every captain who would follow her, every soldier who was tired of running, and she jumped them all into the trap that was meant for the Reaper. 60 human ships against 90 vessels. The odds were still bad, but they were fighting anyway. "All ships, this is Admiral Da," she broadcast. "The Reaper taught us something today. He taught us that one human who refuses to quit is worth 100 aliens who expect easy victory. Today, we stop being victims. Today, we become the thing they should fear. Today, we fight like humans." The human fleet crashed into the formation like an avalanche. Ships that had spent 3 years retreating suddenly pushed forward with reckless aggression. Captains who had calculated careful odds threw caution away and attacked with fury. Crews that had been demoralized found new strength in anger. They fought like the Reaper fought, not smarter, not with better technology, just with absolute refusal to accept defeat. On the flagship, Lord felt his confidence shake. His fleet was in chaos. Human ships were using suicide tactics, ramming his vessels when their weapons ran dry. It was madness. It was terrifying. "Pull our forces back," ordered. "We need to reorganize." But it was too late. The human fleet had found something that had been missing for 3 years. They had found their fighting spirit, and once awakened, it wouldn't go back to sleep. In the corridor, Min heard the explosions of ship combat through the hull. He smiled behind his mask. Da came. The crazy old woman actually came. "We need to get to a ship," Sung said. "Use this confusion to escape." "Agreed," Min said. Fighting was the message. Surviving is the proof that the message works. They ran through the chaos, the forces too distracted by the external battle to properly pursue them. They reached the hangar bay where Jin's ship waited. Soldiers tried to stop them, but they were scattered and disorganized. Min and his team fought through them, not because they had superior weapons or training, but because they wanted it more, because they refused to die here, because they had something worth living for now, proof that humanity could fight back. As they boarded the ship, Lord appeared in the hangar entrance. His armor was scorched. His weapon was drawn. He looked at Min with something that might have been respect. "You win today," Human said, "but this war is not over." "No," Min agreed. "It's not. But now you know what you're really fighting, not weak prey, not victims waiting to be conquered, warriors, and we have billions of them." The ship launched as fired. The shots missed. Jin piloted them through the chaos of the space battle, dodging fire from both sides. They joined up with the human fleet as it began an organized withdrawal. They didn't pursue. Their fleet was too damaged, too shaken. They had come expecting to crush one stubborn human pilot. Instead, they found an entire species that had remembered how to bite back. 3 months later, the war looked different. Not over, but changed. They no longer attacked with the same confidence. They had learned to fear human determination. Min stood before Admiral Da in her office on Earth. She had promoted him, given him command of a new unit. The Reaper Corps, they called it. Volunteers who trained beyond normal limits, who embraced pain as fuel, who studied alien psychology and turned fear into a weapon. They weren't. They were just humans who had decided to fight the way Min fought, with absolute commitment, with tactical brutality, with refusal to accept defeat. Commander 1 served as his second in command. Captain Sung coordinated with the fleet. Pilot Jin trained new pilots in aggressive tactics. Wu managed their communications and intelligence. They had become a family born from battle. United by the day, they stood together against impossible odds and survived. "You started something," De told Min. "When you took off that mask and showed them you were just human, every colony that was thinking of surrendering changed their minds. Every soldier who was losing hope found it again. You reminded us who we are." "I just stopped pretending to be something I'm not," Min replied. "I stopped hiding behind mystery and started showing them the truth. We're dangerous, not because we're special, but because we refuse to quit." That afternoon, Min visited the memorial wall where names of the dead were carved. He found 2 names near the bottom. Mi Jin. He placed his hand on the stone. "I'm still fighting," he said quietly. "Still making them regret what they did, but I'm not alone anymore. I found people who fight like I do, who understand why we can't give up." He put on his skull-faced helmet. Not to hide. Everyone knew who Min was now, but because the Reaper had become something bigger than one man. The Reaper was a symbol, a reminder of what humans could become when pushed to the edge. His ship waited on the launch pad. A new mission was already planned. Another colony needed help. Another battle waited. But now when he flew, other ships flew with him. Other humans who had learned that courage was contagious. They had wanted to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping. They had reminded humans that their ancestors had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain not through superior strength, but through stubborn refusal to be prey. Min launched into space. Behind him, a dozen other fighters followed, all painted black, all carrying the skull emblem, all crewed by humans who had decided that being afraid was fine as long as you fought anyway. The war continued, but now they fought with doubt in their hearts, because every time they saw that skull emblem, they remembered. They remembered the human who had been captured and escaped, who had fought 200 soldiers with 4 companions, who had broadcast his real face to prove that myths were just men and women who refused to lose. In alien space, commanders warned their soldiers about humans now, warned them that these prey had teeth, that these weak creatures could become dangerous when cornered, that underestimating them led to death. The galaxy was learning what Earth had known for millions of years. Humans weren't the strongest, weren't the fastest, but they were the most stubborn, the most adaptable, the most willing to turn pain into power and fear into fuel. They were humanity, and they were done being victims. The Reaper flew into the darkness, no longer alone, and across human space others followed his example, one person at a time, one choice at a time, one refusal to surrender at a time, until the entire species remembered what they were capable of. Until the galaxy learned to fear the sound of human voices, saying two simple words: "Not today."